Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Parashtami Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so we are reading from Teachings of Queen Kunti, Chapter 18, Liberation from Ignorance and Suffering. Bhavesmin Klishyamananam Avidya Kama Karmabhihi Shravana Smaranar Pani Karishan iti kechana. And yet others say that you appear to rejuvenate the devotional service of Shravanam Smaranam. And Shravanam Smaranam, hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on. In order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. Okay. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that He appears in every millennium just to re-establish the way of religion. Sambhavami yuge yuge dharma samsthapanarthaya. The way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. So the dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. This one. No one can manufacture a new path of religion, as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. The factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and thus render service unto Him in spontaneous love. Again, I've discussed this multiple times, but so spontaneous love means, what does spontaneous love mean? Technically, what does it mean? Hare Krishna. What does spontaneous love mean?
Naturally, like.
No. I want technical name, Sanskrit name.
Raganuga Bhakti.
Raganuga Bhakti. So spontaneous love means Raganuga Bhakti. We should understand these things so that whenever Prabhupada is speaking about these things, we know what they are. Right? Prabhupada has not used so much of Sanskrit because, we are all fallen in Kali Yuga. So, but we should, as we read Prabhupada's books more and more, we should be able to identify the Sanskrit behind it. Like here, way of religion is made by the word Dharmam tu Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. And re-establish way of religion in every other millennium. Sambhavami yuge yuge. Spontaneous love is Raganuga Bhakti. So what should we do? We have to render service unto Him in spontaneous love. Now, a little bit of lack of clarity maybe exists among devotees. What spontaneous love means? So can somebody explain what is Vaidhi Bhakti, what is Raganuga Bhakti? I ask devotees to explain, because that way things will become more clearer. When we do Kirtanam, it becomes clearer. It's okay if it is wrong. It doesn't matter, right? You learn. So what is Vaidhi Bhakti? What is Raganuga Bhakti? These things we should know.
Vaidhi Bhakti is more of rules and regulations without actually feeling for it and in the mode of devotion. And Raganuga is spontaneously just, Am I audible?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to complete.
Oh,
Bhakti Prabhuji, when we are trying to...
Mataji, 1 second, let her complete.
Sorry.
Spontaneous, no problem. Spontaneously.
out of love to just doing it, Prabhu. No
Out of
need of
love, just doing it.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, Sumantra Mataji.
Yes, what? Probably Vedi Bhakti, when we are trying to do it, we are forcing ourselves, we are trying to follow. And Ragana Bhakti, it spontaneously comes. Like so many times in material life, ho ma, ho papa, ho, like I'm so, for anything we say ho ma, but it's never oh Krishna. Like it's just spontaneous. I mean, anything happens, you're just thinking of Krishna.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's so mechanical. Like we are just forcing ourselves. कि अच्छा प्रसाद लगाना है, अच्छा आरती करना है. The prem, the unconditional prem is not there. We are trying to.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, technically we should understand this, right? Because a lot of devotees think they are on the spontaneous path and do things which are not correct. So I want to just clarify that. Yeah, spontaneous love means spontaneous, meaning there's no, we don't have to think about it, right? Like, do we think when we are hungry, do we think whether I have to eat or not? No, natural reaction is, yeah, I have to eat because I'm hungry, right? So for Krishna should be so spontaneous, right? We don't have to think. That is understood, but technically we should understand this, because Prabhupada used this spontaneous just to bring this thought into our mind. But it's not as simple as just simply whatever I want to do, right? So I'll explain this. I expect all of you to hear and understand this clearly. And next time this topic comes up, one or more devotees should be able to explain this. Okay. The idea of these classes is to become stronger in philosophy also, because Prabhupada has given all this. Okay, see, Vaidhi Bhakti is the path where the main trigger is rules and regulations. It's not that there is no love at all, but the primary trigger is rules and regulations, meaning those devotees are doing because there are rules and regulations. And then by following the path of rules and regulations, eventually they'll come to the stage of prema. It's not that Vaidhi Bhakti devotees will not come to the stage of prema. Can somebody give an example about for this? Like, or maybe I have something in mind. Let me just say, for example, say difference between love marriage and arranged marriage, right? So arranged marriage is like this Vaidhi Bhakti, meaning initially you just oh, okay, I have to marry this person, okay, and then by engaging in service, dutifully, then there is love for that individual. Right, so it's like that. So love will come up, but at a later point in time. But initially, it's just driven by certain rules and regulations. Okay, I have to do this, I have to do this, etc. Now, Raganuga Bhakti, we should understand that if we have to go to Goloka Vrindavan, we have to come to this path of Raganuga Bhakti. Now, this Raganuga Bhakti is not whimsical. Okay. It's not whimsical, meaning it's not just, okay, I just feel like doing this for Krishna, I will do it. No, it's not like that. It's not whimsical. It's not just the way we want. Spontaneous, somewhat, it might mean, it maybe might feel like that's what it means. Meaning, yeah, I just feel like doing this, I do it. No, it is actually in the following the path of the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Ragatmika Bhaktas are the devotees in Goloka Vrindavan who are serving Krishna spontaneously. Now, their spontaneity is acceptable, meaning they can do anything they want, right? And if they have done it, then it becomes acceptable as part of Raga Anuga Bhakti also, meaning because Raga Anuga Bhaktas are following Ragatmika Bhaktas. I'll explain again. I hope Vaidhi Bhakti is clear for everybody. I'll explain Raganuga again. Ragatmika Raganuga. Vaidhi Bhakti is clear?
Yes, Prabhu.
Vaidhi Bhakti is primarily triggered by rules and regulations, but eventually love manifests, and normally the Vaidhi Bhakti path leads one to Vaikuntha. Okay? Yeah, yes, Mataji. Yeah, Sumandar Mataji, you had a question, you raised your hand. Okay. Okay, so that is Vaidhi Bhakti. Now, Raganuga Bhakti, yeah.
Yes, sir. Sorry, Prabhu, can I?
Yeah.
You said like in Vaikuntha also it's Raguna Bhakti,
No,
but why Prabhuji?
Not Raganuga. In Vaikuntha, it is mostly Vaidhi Bhakti.
No, in Gokul.
Goloka, it is, yeah,
yes, Goloka.
I'll come to that. So
Okay,
I'll explain Raganuga Bhakti.
Okay.
Vaidhi Bhakti is limited to Vaikuntha. Okay, if somebody engages in Vaidhi Bhakti, it goes to Vaikuntha, but it's not okay. I'm just simplifying this topic a little bit because it's a bit complicated. If somebody has a combination, if somebody is worshipping Krishna, okay, but has Vaidhi, meaning Vaidhi is also characterized by Aishwarya. So if somebody has Aishwarya Bhava towards Krishna, they might even go to Dwaraka. So it's a bit complicated, but I'm just simplifying for the sake of understanding Raganuga Bhakti. So Vaidhi Bhakti say generally understand that people will end up in Vaikuntha. Okay, now if Raganuga or Ragatmika is for people who want to go to Vrindavan, right? Somebody Goloka Vrindavan. So anybody who wants to go to Goloka Vrindavan should end up in Raganuga Bhakti. Otherwise, they can't enter Goloka Vrindavan. Now, why is this? Because in Raganuga Bhakti, primarily, the most important thing is that devotees forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Okay, so they just love him so much, like their, Swami, or even in this Dasya is not like, he's because he's the Supreme Lord, he's I am his servant, not like that. And because he is my loving Krishna, I am his servant. I want to serve him. It's like that, right? Even in Dasya, there is no understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. It's just Krishna. I just work for Krishna. That's all. He's a lovely person. It's just like that. There's no sense of still whether he's Supreme Lord or not. Dasya, Sakya also, he is my friend. I'm equal to him. So like this. So in Goloka, there is no sense of it keeps coming and going. And sometimes this thing that Krishna Supreme Lord manifests in the minds of Goloka and the Brajavasis, but then it just goes off. It's not like it doesn't stay. So this Raganuga Bhakti, now how do we learn Raganuga Bhakti? We cannot just do it whimsically. We cannot just do it like we are in our stage of Bhakti and then we cannot say, okay, Krishna is my friend. We go on to the altar and then put our hand around Krishna. No, we can't do that, right? Or like, I've told this multiple times, right? Like, so still, for us, we are following Vaidhi. We are following Vaidhi, and we have to continue to follow Vaidhi. And we have to know what Vaidhi means. Vaidhi means following rules, right? No spontaneity in Vaidhi. Now, Ragatmika devotees are spontaneous. They don't really bother much about any rules and regulations. For example, they might not have taken bath. They will come and eat from whatever, right? Hug Krishna or whatever. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Their whole existence is around Krishna, and whatever pleases him, they are ready to do, irrespective whether it is approved by any rules and regulations. Now. So this the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Now, like I said, Raganuga Bhakti is spontaneous but not whimsical. It is spontaneous in the sense that it, without thinking, that love for Krishna comes, but still it has to be done in following the footsteps of the Ragatmika Bhaktas. So whatever they do, for example, if somebody is attracted to Krishna in the mood of Vatsalya, then they can study how Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are serving, or the elderly Gopas are serving Krishna, and they can develop that kind of spontaneity. They can develop that kind of spontaneity. For example, I keep saying, right, some people have Laddu Gopal in their house. Now that what should that spontaneity be? Giving Krishna stuff that he wants, he likes to eat, like butters, offering him bhoga 6 times a day. This is spontaneity, right? Actually, it's still Vaidhi, but still understanding what Krishna wants, and knowing what Yashoda does, like, and Nanda Maharaj does, and doing that. But, now this big but is there here. Okay. This Raganuga Bhakti is not done externally. This Raganuga Bhakti is done in the mind. Those devotees who come to the stage of Raganuga Bhakti, they still continue to execute Vaidhi Bhakti externally with their gross body. But internally, because they are situated in the position of Atma, internally in the mind, they offer Raganuga Bhakti to Krishna. So they will never violate Vaidhi rules. Raganuga Bhaktas, Sadhakas never violate Vaidhi rules. So, but what is the misunderstanding in ISKCON right now is breaking Vaidhi rules in the name of spontaneity. Breaking Vaidhi rules. And this results in Seva Aparada. When we break Vaidhi rules, it results in Seva Aparada. Is this clear so far?
No, Prabhuji, I do not understand this.
Okay, what part should I explain?
See, when you're saying it's spontaneous, and then again you're saying it's, I mean, you do Vedic Bhakti. How can both go together?
Yeah, so that, okay, let
When
me
you're doing
explain.
spontaneous, you don't understand what you're doing.
No,
mentally and
that's
physically.
that is why don't take that spontaneous to be literally the what we understand in English as spontaneous. Okay, it is
No.
spontaneous. It's spontaneous, but in line with the Ragatmika Bhaktas.
But that means that you're knowing, like when you're in deep in this thing, you're just like Yashoda, when you're deep, Haridas Thakur, they're deep into Krishna's love. They don't even know what the external is.
No, they
So if
can
they
do
know what
because no, they can do because they're at that stage really. We are not at that stage. No, we are trying to get to that stage. See, we should understand we are on the path of sadhana bhakti. Okay, we are trying to do sadhana. So what we are doing, so how does this process work, right? So when we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and we hear about, for example, now we are doing Damodar and we are hearing about how Yashoda is so spontaneously trying to beat Krishna and, bind him up, right? Now, first of all, we should think, for example, like, will I, sir, will I be willing to do this? Like today, if suppose say I want to be really spontaneous and it comes to my mind that I have to bind Krishna, will I be willing to do it? I will not be
No.
because I'm not reached that level of spontaneity yet, right? So I should not be whimsical in terms of what I want to do. So I will follow what I'll try to follow what Yashoda is doing. Like for example, I, anything that we are learning, right? Like for example, say we are learning cooking, right? And somebody very paka cook, right? Everything is perfect. Now, when we are learning, we will not try anything whimsically, right? Because the end product might be something else. So we will follow. We follow the process. We'll say, okay, I want to. So the spontaneity here is I want to cook. I want to cook nice food. I want it to taste nicely. But I don't want to do it whimsically because the end product might be something else. So I'll try to follow somebody who is doing it with the same passion as we might call it, but who knows it, who knows what needs to be done, and who knows that by doing this, what will be the end result. Those are the Ragatmika Bhaktas of Goloka Vrindavan. So this also happens spontaneously. For example, when you are hearing so many pastimes in Bhagavatam, some pastimes will attract you more than others. This is spontaneity. This is spontaneity, right? Like for example, but when you go into like now, how do I serve Krishna in this mood? There is we still have to follow the spontaneity of the real spontaneous devotees who are the Goloka Brajavasis, right? Their love is actually spontaneous. We want to get there. But that spontaneous love also has, it's not whimsical. I mean, see, when I say whimsical, whimsical is a word to describe our things that we do which is affected by material contamination, right? Which is not necessarily approved, right? Or which Krishna will not like, for example. Let me put it that way, right? Our whimsical things may not be really pleasing to Krishna, but the so-called whimsical or spontaneous love that the Golokavasis they do, that is actually acceptable to Krishna because they actually know what Krishna loves or what Krishna likes. Right? So their spontaneity is acceptable. Our spontaneity might be whimsical, right? So that is why we should not generally go on our spontaneity, but we should reach a stage where that spontaneity will be in line with them.
Are
Because
you
that is
trying
what
to
is
say that,
acceptable, Krishna.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Prabhu, but are you trying to
Hmm.
say that spontaneous yet be very cautiously involved in
Not
doing
cautious. See,
it?
there is a process here.
Conscious.
That's what I'm saying. There is a process here, right? Like, see, okay, let's fast forward our lives, right? Or this life and multiple lives, and we go to Goloka. Okay. And when we go to Goloka and maybe we are in whatever bhava, say for just argument's sake, let's keep Vatsalya because we are discussing around that, right? Say, let's say that I became an elderly gopi in Vrindavan, right? Now, if I'm an elderly gopi, what I will do is possibly very commonly known and acceptable in Goloka Vrindavan, as in the sense that I will not do something like super crazy, which seems out of place in Vrindavan. You understand what I'm saying?
Nahi, Prabhuji, like it's still, see, like, I mean, what
Okay,
I
let me try.
understood is,
I'll clarify.
one-
I'll clarify.
sorry, can I just, what I understood of what you're saying is, like we are in Vedi Bhakti, but we step onto the shoes in place of the person who is a better devotee
No,
or
not
into
step
the,
on, not step on, not step on.
like,
We are
try to
trying to understand
understand.
how they are serving Krishna. Okay.
But that's still Vedi Bhakti only. Where does the like, now suppose in a material world, somebody's following a football player. He wants to become a football player. So he takes on, he tries to play, but then he watches him and he is trying to improve. A similar
Yeah, okay.
pattern?
Let me give you an example, right? Like I'm just giving you a very
Yes,
something that
Prabhu.
you can you possibly can
Relate to.
relate to, right? Now Yashoda is breastfeeding Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Now what will we do if you want to practically do it?
No, we can't. Like,
So this is the point, right? But you still have the feeling that I want to breastfeed Krishna because he's my son.
Yes, it comes.
So this
Sometimes, yes.
love has to happen in the mind where I am breastfeeding Krishna. Okay, but why am I breastfeeding Krishna? Because Yashoda Mata is doing the same thing to Krishna, and Krishna likes it. And Krishna also then took up the form of so many cows and calves, and also the sons of various elderly gopis, because they had the desire to breastfeed Krishna. You understand what I'm saying?
No, but Prabhu, yeah, like, okay, like, no, gopis and
So let me clarify. Let me clarify one second. One more. No, this whole activity of breastfeeding Krishna is not part of Vaidi. You're understanding what I'm saying, right? So this activity of breastfeeding Krishna is not part of Vaidi. As part of Vaidi, what we'll do, we'll put food on the plate of Krishna and offer to him. You're understanding?
Yes.
This is spontaneous love. Because this is not been given in Vidhi saying that one has to breastfeed Krishna.
Yes.
But when a devotee comes to the stage where he or she in that mood actually feels that no, Krishna is my son and he's hungry, I want to breastfeed him. No, but he can't do anything on the Vaidi platform to satisfy this desire to serve Krishna. Right? And then he says, okay, what does Yashoda do? Oh, Yashoda does it this way. Okay, now I'll also do. But I can't do it externally, so I'll do it in the mind. Same thing with gopis. I mean, I didn't want to go into discussion with respect to gopis because it'll take us somewhere else, right? So, Vatsalya is easier to understand. Is this clear now? It is spontaneous, but the process itself is not part of Vaidi. For example, okay, let's take Sakya, right? In Sakya, I just feel like putting my hand on Krishna's shoulders, right? Or I feel like pressing his legs. What will I do in Vaidi? Vaidi doesn't allow me to go and press or put my hand on Krishna's shoulders. But I'm feeling spontaneously to do it because I feel that I'm in that mood. So then I will say, okay, what does Krishna's friends do? Oh, okay, this is how they do. Okay, fine. Let me do it. But this happens in the mind. Because Vaidi doesn't allow us to execute many of the activities of service that is done by Goloka Vasis. Vaidi doesn't allow us to do. Right?
Yes. But don't we won't be committing Prag Prabhu, like if you think
No,
like,
right. No, one second. Right now, please understand what Raganuga Bhakti is. I'm not told who can do it yet.
No,
Right?
even when you think about it, like as you said, suppose you're thinking of breastfeeding or you're playing with Krishna, then
no, we will come to that. I'll explain next step. So right now, I'm just saying that this is what Raganuga Bhakti is. It is not whimsical. It's not like no, that we don't understand. Let me clarify this further, right? Now, for example, today, many devotees I know, that they, for example, somebody says, I didn't take bath, but I feel like seeing Jagannath. And they'll come into the temple. Or, for example, somebody during their monthly period, they'll come into the temple because somebody has said, no, you can come actually and see from far. What
Yes.
is far? You come into the temple premise, you're gone. I mean, you contaminated the whole temple. Right now, this is not spontaneity. They say, no, I can't resist, but see Jagannath. But that is not spontaneity because that is not part of Vaidhi. It is not acceptable. Understanding what I'm saying, right? We cannot
Yes.
just whimsically decide that I'm spontaneous. On one side, I'm spontaneous. On the other side, I'm going and eating gobi Manchurian or, pani puri somewhere. This is nonsense. We have to be very careful about this because I see devotees misunderstanding spontaneity. Misunderstanding spontaneity. Vaidhi means rules. There's no question of breaking. A Raganuga Bhakta also doesn't break rules, even though internally he's such at an exalted situation, he never breaks rules. So the first thing I want all of us to understand is, and of course we're not going to end this topic today, I'll continue tomorrow, right, is that spontaneity doesn't just mean I will do whatever I want. I am just inspired today to do like this and I will do it. That's not spontaneity. That is just being whimsical. Right, and Krishna might not be pleased with that also, but we are assuming that Krishna is pleased. Why? Because I felt naturally to do something like that. So spontaneity has to be also pleasing to Krishna, and that we don't know today. If it becomes some figment of our mind, something that just came up in my mind now that I want to do, and it's not mentioned anywhere as acceptable in Shastra, that is not spontaneity. And that is why Shastra says, no, like without Shastra, without Tattva, Utpata eva kalpate, Rupa Goswami says, right? If it is not Vaidhi, then it Utpat, it just creates some kind of disturbance, that's all. Right? So let's understand this much for today. Okay, so there is Vaidhi and there's Raganuga. Raganuga Bhaktas are follow in the footsteps, not copy, not imitate. Follow in the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhaktas. Ragatmika Bhaktas are the Vrajavasis who have spontaneous love for Krishna, and they serve Krishna in a certain way. So those who want to actually elevate themselves to that platform, or being one of those, like for example, we cannot replace Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, but we can become an elderly Gopi and Gopa and serve Krishna in Vatsalya Bhav. Right? So we want to follow in their footsteps. So those devotees follow, if those who desire to become serve Krishna in Vatsalya Bhav will follow in the footsteps of Yashodananda Maharaj and other elderly gopis, gopas of Vrindavan. But externally, they will continue to execute Vaidhi Bhakti. Internally, in the mind, they will execute Raganuga Bhakti. Okay. Now, who can do it? How does one reach this stage? What it means, etc., etc. To whatever extent I understand this topic, I will explain that tomorrow. Okay. I want all of you to just digest this much. Tomorrow, before we start, we will first hear this. I'll want devotees to explain to me what Vaidhi Bhakti is and Raganuga Bhakti is, and then we will move further because I want this to be very firmly fixed understanding. Okay, and Raganuga Bhakti is not whimsical. Doing whimsical things and attributing spontaneity to it is actually nonsensical. I mean, it's outside the purview of bhakti itself, right? It's not. It cannot even be called bhakti. It's just called utpat, right? Like whimsical behavior or disturbance. Okay, is this clear?
Prabhuji,
Oh, Prabhuji.
yes, correct.
Oh, yeah, Ruchira Mataji, go ahead.
Prabhuji, is this the right understanding that for those on the material platform, Radha Bhakti means spontaneous love by following the rules and regulations? And
No, not the
those
first
who are,
part. Not the first part. What was the first part?
first
No, what
part
was the
was
first part of your statement? For
spontaneous
those who
love.
are conditioned.
Yeah, for those who are conditioned.
No, conditioned people cannot do spontaneous love.
No,
Cannot
no,
come to
for
Ragana.
those, like for us, for the sadhakas,
Sadhana
like
bhaktas.
those
So you can
who,
say sadhakas.
yeah,
Sadhakas for
okay.
sadhakas.
For
Yeah.
the sadhakas, Radhanuga Bhakti means spontaneous love with the rules and regulations, by following rules and
No. Raganuga for sadhakas, Raganuga bhakti means following in the footsteps of Ragatmika bhaktas in the mind. internally, but externally following Vaidhi Bhakti.
Yes, that is what I mean to say, but I'm not
No,
able
no,
to
no.
get
What you said was different. I'm correcting, right?
okay.
Raganuga Bhakti means following in the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhaktas and doing the devotional service in the mind internally, but externally following Vaidhi Bhakti. This internally, externally is very, very important in this definition. Otherwise, it goes for a toss.
And there in Golok, there are no rules and regulations. There is just
No, there is
spontaneous
no
love
rules
for.
and regulations. There are no rules and regulations. But it's like though there are no rules and regulations because everything is centered around pleasing Krishna, and because they are on the platform where they exactly know what will please Krishna, there won't be anything wrong in what they do, right? And it is an eternal, it is an eternal leela. As in, I'm saying how Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and the elderly gopis, gopas love Krishna is eternally going on, right? So it's not like some new thing will come up today suddenly, right? But it's not as per Vaidhi, as in Vrindavan, in Vaikuntha Vaidhi. It has nothing to do with Vaikuntha Vaidhi, so therefore it is spontaneous. It is not Vaidhi Bhakti, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Okay.
Prabhuji, can I
Yeah,
want
please.
to? So
Yeah.
when they become sahajas, then what are they,
Sahajiyas.
Prabhu?
Yeah, Sahajiyas is
Then
this
what are they?
whimsical nonsense. Actually, that's the right word I should have used at that point of time. It is Sahajiyism, right? Just doing whatever I want, right? And no, I'm not calling. First of all, okay, two things for Sahajiya, right? Sahajiyas do what Raganuga Bhaktas do internally, they do it externally. Okay, this is the first big distinction. Second, they're not qualified for it also. They are totally materially contaminated, and in the material contamination they are trying to imitate Krishna in what he does or imitate a devotee. They are not trying to follow in the footsteps, they are trying to imitate a devotee externally.
They don't do vidhi.
They don't follow vidhi at all. They say vidhi and all is for low class people like you guys. You know, you ISKCON people, you follow vidhi because you don't have qualification. We are all like exalted. We don't have to do all this japa vapa and all. Who does japa? Brajavasis do japa, is it? No, we don't do japa. Brajavasis don't do japa, so we don't do japa. So this is Sarjism.
So there is no bhakti there at all, no, Prabhu.
There is no bhakti at all. Absolutely. I mean,
that is only whimsical
nonsense. It is.
whimsical
Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is like, yeah, I mean, he's like really taken up all these upper sampradayas. You know, last week when we were in Vrindavan, I mean, right in front, I had just heard all of this before, right, right in front of my eyes. And there's my guy who's dressed as a gopi and singing Gopi Geet, right, on Radha Kund, like the, path where you're doing parikrama. And then I saw this, other aprasampradaya, what is that, Radha, Nitai Gaur Radesham. This is another apasampradaya. I can't remember the full mantra they chant. Nitai Gaur Radesham. Some made up mantra. This is another apasampradaya. So there are so many apasampradayas. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually destroyed all of them. I mean, so it has to be, it's very important that we follow whatever has been given to us. Okay.
And another thing I want a clarification with due respects, Prabhuji. I mean, like you said that the women should not enter and without a bath, but many times in
not
ISKCON,
women, in men also without bath,
yes,
but during the monthly cycle, you should not absolutely enter.
But in ISKCON, many a times we I feel guilty today. Like many times for Mangalarti, we just have the initial days I used to just rush like that. Now of course I take a bath and go. Prabhu, like we've done that, and then we hear Prabhupada says no, like come do chant, come to the temple, like even when you have your periods. Like
no.
What do you understand?
Who said?
Yeah,
Please
yes,
share.
Prabhu, this has been I can't.
No.
Like,
If there is.
This was a common this thing. Even you could cook and offer. You can go to the temple. Like don't touch the paraphernalia. And many women do come, and I
want to hear some quotes. I want to hear quotes.
I'm one of those guilty persons.
No, Mataji, we should get quotes. So if Prabhupada has has told somebody that they can do this, there will be some quotes. Right. So let's see those quotes. In what context Prabhupada said. See, another very important thing which unfortunately devotees don't do is understand the context in which something was said. Right.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And we generalize a specific rule, right? And that specific rule would have been so specific. Prabhupada is a Jagat Acharya, right? He knows what to
Yes,
do
Prabhuji.
with whom, when, why, etc., etc. We can't just take a statement that he has made or an allowance he might have given for whatever reason. Which first of all, we have to understand whether
Yes.
it really that allowance really existed, and if so, what was the condition, what was the situation, why was that allowed? And if one more thing we have to understand is here everything that Prabhupada has said about the topic, and then decide saying that is this one statement out of 10 statements that Prabhupada made, and am I just taking it out of proportion,
Yes, Prabhuji.
right? Because it's a very simple thing, Mataji, because see what we are following in the temple is Pancharatrika Vidhi, right? Pancharatrika Vidhi has nothing to do with spontaneous bhakti, right?
Yes,
It's
Prabhuji.
it's just Vaidhi, because we can't follow Vaidhi Archana Paddhati because it's too detailed and it's not for us. And Narada Muni gave Pancharatrika Vidhi, which is aligned to bhakti. Right, he took up everything from Vedas, which had so many processes, and he only took out whatever is relevant for people who are on the path of bhakti, but who want to do deity worship. Right, but it is an extract. It is based on Vidhi only. It's based on Vedas, and Narada Muni gave it. Right, so the process by itself will not encourage all these kinds of stuff. Now, Prabhupada did so many things, but we have to understand in context.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right, and then this is true about anything, not just this topic. I'm saying this is true about anything that Prabhupada has said or done, has to be understood in context. Right, see, Prabhupada did so many things in the very initial days, very initial days, when possibly devotees would have run away if he had put all these rules.
Yes,
But
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada subsequently made it very clear, saying that we have to become more strict in following rules and regulations later. Now, we have not understood the whole journey of ISKCON when we are misinterpreting these things or taking these things out of context, right? It's not like Prabhupada in his later years allowed people to do all this.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very initial years. And that too, why? Because it is the Western world, right? So anyway, I mean, I'm generalizing, but if there is something, then I will also be enlightened by looking at that. If there is some quote that Prabhupada has said, saying that irrespective of what, in all condition, all situations, people can go in, right, like this into the temple. I'm sure he wouldn't have done it, but if it is something like that, then I'll correct myself.
Because I know of many Matajis who do come in and they listen to lecture and all that from the far. They don't go as I told you, I've been one of them, Prabhu. I know I cannot
No, that's
redo what
okay.
I've done.
That's okay, Mataji. I mean, we are not here to pinpoint
No, it's not a
individual
question
mistakes,
of pinpointing,
right?
Prabhu. It's a question of learning things. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a question of. I mean, of course, today I'm above all that, but then it's a question of at least knowing things and rectifying things in future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that is the reason why we have to if we just simply read and understand Prabhupada's books nicely, then we will possibly be more careful when we are doing such things, because there is an underlying philosophy, thought process behind what Prabhupada has written, right? And if we try to understand that better, then we'll be in a better position to do bhakti properly. Anyway, I'll be happy if you can also figure out if there are some quotes. I'll also try to look for them. Then we can have a much clearer. But this has been my understanding from all these years of practice. Yeah, Rohini Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Actually, Mataji covered my question and kind of you answered already. But still, even I read it somewhere like Prabhupada told to the initial Matajis to wear silk saris during that time, but not touch the paraphernalia.
No, but how will you do this? You please tell me, how will you do this? How will you, even if suppose this, I mean, just understand, there are 10 devotees then at that point of time.
As you
maybe,
said,
right?
like maybe it's for only for the initial devotees because it's there.
No,
it's
see, today simple thing, Mataji, you go to the temple, right? You go to the temple, and when you go, naturally, if all devotees, they love, the relationship, they love each other, they come hug, they they come, they stand
right.
like, I mean, they'll come and nicely come stand 2 inches from you. right? And they might be somebody who's actually doing some service inside the altar, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
saying this is
yes.
impossible. I'm saying I have seen that it's a simple thing, right? Your whatever you're wearing, even if it just touches remotely somebody
Ah,
who's walking by, who's
right,
just running, say somebody who's just running past, right? Nothing to do with you, or you
right,
don't know
right.
that devotee also, right? And
I
maybe it's a
have the
male
same.
devotee,
Yes,
right? And he's running past you because for some service, and just his cloth touched your cloth. Over.
ah,
End of
okay.
story.
Right,
I'm saying, you
right.
remember, no, Prabhupada, in one
I,
initiation
right.
lecture, where there is a baby somewhere, I mean, like in one corner. His
Mm-hmm.
Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj describes this. It was during his initiation, sannyas
Mm-hmm.
initiation, sorry, Harinam initiation, where, in Vrindavan, there's one child
Was putting,
somewhere trying
yes,
and putting
nose
its hand
mouth.
into its mouth. Prabhupada
Yes, I
stopped the
heard.
yagna. Prabhupada
Yes,
stopped the
right,
yagna and say, that child at the end of this one is putting its hand into its
right.
mouth, and the whole
So
place is
wash his
contaminated.
hands.
Go
Yes,
take him out, right? And then he purifies the place, and
yes.
then he restarts the yagna. Simple. I mean,
Note.
forget about what we are talking, right? It's a simple
Right,
thing of putting hand into the mouth, and that to a child.
right.
Now, somebody who did this, do you think he would allow any more contamination than that to enter into a temple?
Yeah. And
I
also,
mean,
I heard one more thing is after third day bath, they can even like,
I mean, all this is
I don't
again.
know.
I mean,
I
I
heard
mean,
in
you have
USA
to.
people
This is a very
saying,
simple thing, Mataji. Forget about
yes,
all this. What people are saying. No, you just think about it,
right,
right? You
right.
you look at it from your own perspective, your understanding of what
Yes,
this process is
yes,
happening,
I
right?
heard it.
And history of what people used to do in India before,
Mm.
and you can just correlate. See, Westerners can't understand because they don't have a context to this at all, right? They
Ah,
don't even
right,
they can't understand this. It's just like
right,
weird, right? But
right,
we have a culture, right? And we
right,
have a culture, such a rich culture in India, and it was very simple thing, right?
right,
What we have taken today as granted. I mean, I know when I was
right,
very small, I know that, I mean, this is not the topic that we should be
right.
discussing openly, but I'm just saying, like, I knew that women had a separate place during that
Yes,
Yes.
period, right? Not even coming
Yes.
out, right? Food was
yes,
given to them, everything. They had to just be secular, in that place, right? Now, I mean, I'm saying we've now made progress, right?
mm,
We made progress. We can do whatever we want today.
right.
But we should
And how
understand,
about
right?
one more? Yes, Praveen. And one more question. So, how about reading Bhagavad Gita? I mean, touching it or chanting and
No,
beads.
actually, what is recommended? The recommended process is to do digital, if at all, right? If you want to do it, because digital is no, we're not really
Right,
touching, and we can do more hearing during those times than
right,
reading. But if you want to read, yeah, we can do online, we can do on mobile, etc. But book is not different from Krishna. Right.
right.
Hearing, there's no dosha for hearing, right? For example, you can hear lectures like chanting also, right? So we can chant, but generally it's also recommended to have separate set of beats, separate beat bag,
Oh,
etc. Anyway, so this you can all please talk to my wife.
okay.
I should not be sitting
Sure.
discussing these things, right? So, but yeah.
No.
But I wanted to make this point saying that none of these, please let's not classify this under spontaneity, right? It's just ignorance to some extent, or wrong understanding, and we are ending up doing whatever we are doing. And this is not the only topic or way of where this spontaneity
No,
versus whimsical is coming. There are multiple things like this where we have to just think, saying that on a normal day we won't do this, in an abnormal day when we are doing this, it's not acceptable, it's just whimsical, right? That's the
right.
general input I wanted to share. Okay.
Yeah. But one more question, like somebody asked
Yeah.
me, like Krishna stays in our heart as Paramatma, right?
Yeah.
So during that time, so Krishna is in our heart too, right? So there is no difference between Paramatma and the
Yeah, but
Krishna.
this is again, I
Right?
mean,
So,
this is this thing saying that like Mayavadis say that, right? Why should we worship? Why should we go to the temple? Krishna is in our heart. Yeah, you worship Krishna in your heart however you want. No, who's stopping you from doing it? But Vaidhi Bhakti has a process, because
process.
there's a manifestation of the Lord in a certain form. There are certain rules that acharyas have given in terms of how it has to be worshipped.
Okay.
That is why Raganuga Bhakti has no rules. I mean, I didn't come to that, right? When in Raganuga, it doesn't matter whether you're clean, not clean. You can continue because you're not
Mhm.
on that platform. You're
Right,
not on
right.
that platform. So
Not on
we have not come to that yet, right? So we'll discuss that maybe
right.
tomorrow, right? But
Right.
Vaidhi is Vaidhi. Please understand. However
Right.
exalted, I mean, Prabhupada followed Vaidhi. Till his
Right.
last moment, he followed Vaidhi Bhakti.
Right.
Right? Now, who are we? I mean, how can we take excuses, right? Got to give
Right.
excuses.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? Okay, so just the focus is still going back to the focus of what is Vaidhi and what is Raganuga. Tomorrow we'll do a little more. All this is in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I encourage all devotees who are serious in making progress in Krishna consciousness to please read the following 4 books again and again: Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion. And once we do Nectar of Devotion, we can even read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu original, which is only as Bhanuswami Maharaj has translated, with like verse translation purport. So it's amazing. I mean, it'll take a lifetime for us to understand it, but it can also be read, right? But provided first we have read Prabhupada's books, right? Prabhupada's books, then Nectar of Devotion, then we can also read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, original by Rupa Goswami, translated by His Holiness Bhanuswami. Is that okay?
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll conclude here. Pancha kalpatarubheshta kripa sindhu bhyo patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki jai Jagat Guru Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That was Pranam
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare
Dandavat.
Krishna, Prabhu. Dhanyavat.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat.